Good evening. I'm Katie McManus, business strategist and leadership coach. I have the pleasure to announce that I'm here with Megha Bradley, my go-to money healer. Gesundheit, Megha.
The inappropriate time to sneeze.
Or as we say in my family, choosies. Welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Now I just had to sneeze right now, all day. Thanks for having me. I see that we're off to a roaring start like we normally are.
As usual. So we've actually transitioned our clubhouse room to our this live on Mondays.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because Clubhouse, we had such amazing conversations and then they disappeared into the ether and they're just gone.
Well, sometimes I think some of the things we said, it was best. No.
Well, yeah, we did share a lot.
We should have been on our clubhouses. We might,
All right. We're creating a lot of FOMO, I think.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be here for these conversations. We don't know where they're going.
No, especially when we talk about sex and money and how they tie together.
Yes. We do that one again on a Facebook Live.
Oh my God, that would be so much fun. Probably not to LinkedIn though. I think the LinkedIn crowd might.
No, that would be too much for much break.
And just to speak, if you're watching this on LinkedIn or on the Facebooks or on YouTube, we do love this to be interactive. If you have any questions about what we're saying or you want to cheerlead us at all, we always love that. But just so you know, if you comment and we don't call you out, it is not you. We're not ignoring you. It's just sometimes the technology fails us. So it is what it is. It works well in some ways, but not in all. But anyway, Megha, tonight we wanted to talk about trust and starting a business and trusting yourself and trusting money to show up. And I know this is kind of a generic umbrella way to start the conversation, but what comes up for you when you think of trust and money?
It's surrender. That's the word. And trust, because you cannot trust willing to surrender the how. So that's the thing that comes up, because it's like, how am I going to pay for this? Or how is that going to happen?
Mm-hmm. And hi, Karen. Thank you for joining us this evening. Yeah, I love that word surrender. It's, there's intention of it going well, but then there's less. You can't expect it. You can't expect like a certain outcome. When you're starting a business, when you're putting a service out there and you're calling in your ideal clients, you can have expectancy. You can be excited for whatever does show up. But you really have to release all expectations of what you are holding to be the metric of success there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the thing that I find is that we many times are so stressed out. If we're really in the how, whether it's the business and get the funding, or depending on what phase or stage that money relationship is in, or how we're going to pay the taxes. Let's go further down. How is a long conversation, and it really limits what's possible. And I have a really cool story that I'll share in a second, which I don't know if you saw it post on my Facebook wall last week, actually.
I think I know what you're talking about. I really want to hear it, but I also want to say hi to David. And I know David is playing in this arena as well. That is what I will say. And Karen Balchin said, hello, Kate McCarthy Booth, Perp, and Megha Bradley. I think you have to keep showing up and set up realistic goals for yourself. 100%.
Yes.
You can't be a secret in success. You have to keep showing up. And sometimes it takes showing up a bunch of times for the money to actually show up. Like the money has to trust you too. Money has to trust that like you'll be there to like receive it when it gets there. So you have to keep showing up.
And beyond receiving it, honor it.
Yes. And we have Adielo. Am I mispronouncing your name completely? From Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome. So anyway, I want to hear this story, and I think everyone watching should hear this story.
Okay. It's the ultimate in the how. I had a client who needed to work on healing some trauma related stuff that was blocking her money. And she contacted me and said, I don't know how much you charge, but I really need to work with you. You came on referral, and I just know that it'll be a good investment, but I don't know where I'm going to get the money from. She schedules an appointment, she scrapes together the money, and then she says, my air conditioner broke. Has that ever happened to anyone listening? Like you're like, the money's going here, my ducks are going there, and then your ducks all wander off. So I'm like, okay, it's fine. Finally timed. It'll show up. Everything will work out. You'll come back to me. So she sure enough, she comes back like a month and a half later. She goes, I saved up enough money. I paid for the air conditioner, saved up enough money to work with you. Now, when she contacted me, she was really in the position where her business was pretty much failing. It had been struggled and struck down by 2020. She was in a month-to-month situation of, I don't know how I'm going to keep the roof over my head. Like, I'm talking the hows were big. And so any of you listening who know, like, how in the world, when no way possible, you're like, I've done every strategic math, whatever, I don't see it's going to happen. So I do the theta healing session, which is a course where I defrag the beliefs and the contracts within us that keep us from being able to let that money stick and flow. And we did one session, $247 later. A month goes by. It's actually been more like 6 weeks. She finally emails me. I'm like, oh, how are you doing? People like right after the session, and then I just leave them alone, let them do their thing. And she says, I've been so busy, I've been meaning to email you. And then she says, so since my session that she didn't know how she was going to pay for, this is the how, or how she was going to get her business going, or how the rent was going to get paid, or whatever. There's several hows.
Yeah.
She says, I had this whisper in my head. I never played the lottery. I went and I bought a $20 scratch off. She won $100,000 off the a $20 scratch off turned into $100,000. This is somebody on the brinkering on the edge of, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent in 2 months. Then on top of that, she found out that her ex-husband actually owed her money in his pension disbursement. So it's recurring, stable, ongoing pension disbursement revenue that has now been given to her, and it's flowing to her now and consistently going forward. So she got flash money, she got stable, consistent money, and she said, my business is the busiest it's ever been.
Yeah. That's incredible.
One surrender of, that's how much the universe is waiting. And you go, oh, not to dive into spiritual stuff, but literally, like, there is a giant bank vault of many things when we surrender.
Yeah. No. Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, whenever I think of people getting wrapped up in the how, it's like you're sitting outside and you're bird watching and you're just choosing to watch like one tiny little branch in a tree. And you're like waiting for the bird to land on that branch. Meanwhile, you're missing the whole show. It's everywhere. When you're so focused on the how the money's going to show up, you miss all the opportunities for the other ways it can show up.
Yeah.
And you don't listen to your intuition then that tells you to buy that scratch off ticket, which is fucking incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. I like literally start laughing in the middle of the night when I read the message. I don't play the lottery either, but I do know, like, sometimes a little whisper, you go, I listen to that. Yeah. We all get the little whisper. It's just how much judgment we put on the whisper, which goes back to trust, and trusting how it's going to comes back to, and I think you earlier, like, without trust of yourself, there's not any other trust that's actually going to show up long term. No.
And I mean, for the mental health of a person who's building a business, you have to have trust. Yeah. If you don't have trust, then you're just riding that roller coaster without a seatbelt on.
Yeah.
It just feels like you could fall off at any minute.
Yeah. And do you have to dig into the places where trust and when you think of trust, I'm curious to know, like, when was the first time you had to have that breakthrough of really trusting something around money?
Oh, you know, it's funny. The first time I like was very conscious about having trust in money was last August. This is very recent. Like, this is a new thing. Like, there's a reason why I do this work. It's because I had to do it for myself, you know. Like, my life crashed and burned, and I had to build up this business, and literally, like, it was going really well. But in August of last year, I decided I was going to have my first $20,000 month, but I wasn't going to get precious about how it happened. You know, so like I rolled out a group program, and I was sure that that would be my ticket to getting to my $20,000 month, along with my one-on-one clients, and you know, their monthly payments and everything. And what's so funny is I didn't get any signups for the group program. Not one person joined. And like, this is what happens when you're rolling out group programs, everyone, just so you know, like, this is behind the scenes, honest. Like, half of the group programs I put out don't fill up.
Yep.
That's just the nature of the beast. But I ended up getting like 3 or 4 referrals, and they chose to pay in such a way that I made it to my very first $20,000 month within a month of deciding that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it was just this breakthrough aha, like, wow, I don't have to carry the weight of the world when I decide how much money I want to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just have to decide and then agree to have that exchange of energy where I show up and do the work to make it possible.
Yeah. And I love that share. And it goes to mind the thing that I always teach people, and I got taught to me. And it took me a while to really get this. And it's that little tiny phrase of this or something better. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't just work for money, it works for dating too, just for the record.
That's a whole other story. We won't go there tonight, but it's coming.
It's all receiving, right? That's another that, you know, we have that stack of.
I know we have a whole. We're just gonna have to be talking forever. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I love it, but that's I think that's the thing, is it's like the definition of this is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's going to happen. Yeah. But now the request has been submitted.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to play along.
Yeah. And Adiola, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly this time. Integrity and trust leads to success in business. And it's that integrity of, I'm going to show up and I'm going to put the work in, and I'm also going to be open to receiving whatever it is that you're sending my way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about you? What's your story about your first time trusting money? I feel like it's like when you lost your virginity.
Spin the bottle, you never know. You know, the first time that I really, it took me all the way until, well, now I'm marking my age because I think that we've talked about this age thing. It took me until my mid-30s, which was over a decade ago. And it really came around the time that I was doing Millionaire Mind, T. Harv Eker's Millionaire Mind. Mm-hmm. And it was that there's an exercise. I remember like, oh, wait, people still take it, Millionaire Mind. There's an exercise where you have to really trust why you're being asked to do what you're asked to do. And then on the other side of it, you get the outcome, and you need to notice off track. And the reason that it was powerful for me was because I was trusting for the wrong reasons. And I was too busy. What I got out of it was the breakthrough for me was actually not in the trust of, oh, here's the goal and here's the X thousands of dollars thing. It was actually like I would always create sacrifices and like things that I would do saying, if I just trust this will be the thing. that gives me the breakthrough. And then I understood that my trust wasn't pure.
Right.
And that I was willing to trust the wrong people, the wrong circumstances, and the wrong things, ultimately leading to me having more detriment and more demise. And when I had that breakthrough, I started to change my discernment about what I would actually trust and why.
Right.
So to divulge the entire exercise, and then it'd be
No.
all over Facebook, and I don't want to do that because other people need that breakthrough exercise. But it's really about trust.
Mm-hmm.
What you trust.
Yeah. No, and I mean, that discernment is so key to having successful relationships, having a successful business. I mean, you can't just go around and trust everyone. And you shouldn't. Just for everyone out there, that's not what we're advocating for.
I think it's also important to denote, because if anyone has watched The Secret and then like thought that that was just enough, I'm sorry. If you're still sitting in your living room waiting for the elephant in the car to show up in your living room, that there are people, I'll just set the intention. No. Intention is great. Action actually sets intention on fire. So you have all the intention in the world. And so I think that's part of the trust thing too, is it's like, where does trust become apathy? And I'll just trust it. Well, but you still have to do your part.
Right. Right. Well, and it's, this whole idea of manifestation, and there's the super, super woo-woo side of manifestation. And then there's like the kind of tactical side. And I kind of blend the two. It's like when you decide you want to get a yellow Jeep, right? You decide you're going to get a yellow Jeep. You're thinking about it all the time. And all of a sudden, everywhere you look, you see yellow Jeeps. They're just everywhere. And it's like, but here's the thing, they were always there. It's just your brain is now turned on to notice them. It's like the yellow Jeep switch got flipped.
Yeah, the reticulating system in the brain.
Yeah, and it's just like you scan everything. And everyone who's watching right now, I want you to think of the color blue and just scan your world for color blue things. Like you're surrounded by blue, even if you don't have a lot of blue in your room, right? Now name one thing that was red. Your brain just scans the world. So like if you set the manifestation intention that you're going to do the thing and you start seeing these opportunities, you have to also act on them.
Yeah. Big time.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah. I think that, and then, who are you trusting or what are you trusting that's beyond you? Where are you putting your where is the power of the trust?
Right.
If you're trusting that the government is going to send you another, whatever, $1,600 or whatever, another conversation for another day. But like there's people who are trusting that there is a specific source that's just going to provide for them.
Right.
That's not advisable, especially in this day and age.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's not just, the government, it's, people marrying for money. It's people hoping that their inheritance covers their lifestyle for the rest of their life.
Or that they'll retire from the same company. I mean, we've kind of got that one pretty much blown out of the water, but there are still people that are like, well, if I just have this job, then I'll be like me. And it's like, yeah, until inflation blows your job payment value out of the water, then what are you going to do? So you can't just trust. You got to create what is it that you're actually going towards? Because if the only thing you're going towards, and this isn't a slam on anyone who's literally right now like, this is what I'm going towards, to make sure I have a roof over my head at the end of the month. This is not to discredit any of that, but that's also why you will only have a roof over your head at the end of the month, because that's what you're aiming at.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you're driving a beater Toyota that's half rusted out on one side. On the bottom, you can see the floorboard. Like literally, I have a family member who, when I first got in a car with him, you could literally see the interstate go by under your feet.
No.
He now has an M5, and he has a $450,000 house in a span of 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
because he wasn't looking at how do I just make rent next, or how do I pay the insurance on my car that you can see the freeway under your feet.
Right.
He was going, I am not going to be here. I'm going there. So what you trust, like that's important too, because you can only, the bucket can only receive what you are open to receiving.
Right. Sorry, I have a tickle in my throat and it's driving me
I
crazy.
have
We started with a sneeze, now we're coughing through it. It's a lot of fun.
Or like Larry mowing curly and sneezing all the way. We're not even in the same state, you know.
I don't know, but we're just connected, you know. It's that energy. Well, what I love about this is it's you know, I've been thinking about this thing recently because I have a new business coach on top of my old business coach who I'm keeping. I just have a lot of business coaches in my life.
Familiar with that.
I know, right? Well, it's the funny thing about being a business coach and strategist is you can't do it all for yourself. You can do it for everyone else, but you can't do it for you, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But anyway, but one of the questions she asked me is, you know, what kinds of businesses do I see myself investing in after next year? Because after next year, if my business continues the way it will, I will need to start developing some passive income. And it's like, I never even thought of that before. Which is like, but it's such a beautiful thing to now start scanning the world for, like, funeral homes. Would I want to invest in a funeral home, or would I want to invest over here in like some kind of cafe or a laundromat or whatever, you know? But it's dreaming bigger, like asking the universe, because whatever you ask the universe, it's going to give to you.
Yeah. I over and over, I think that's I watch it with my clients on a regular basis. I've had clients that are like, you know, I just need to make an extra $5,000 this month. And like, literally, we're on a call, we're in a session, and they're like, oh, there's $1,000. By the time I get done, they're, no, I just made $2,000 between now and when we got off the phone. I'm like, and you haven't made any in the week and a half before, because they just weren't focused on, okay, I'm going to be open, because we close down. We continually close down. I am in a current state of, oh my gosh, I paid how much for day camps and childcare in the summer. And anybody that's got kids in the time, holy mackerel, you have a puppy. They're not much different. They just don't talk back as much, and they love on you more than the children.
Mine talks back a little.
And it's like, I find myself, because, and my boyfriend's really good at being like, hear yourself. And I'm like, these kids are draining me dry. And he's like, I'm like, oh, but it's easy. So it's a process over and over and over. It's not a one and done. This is the stuff we're talking about is continual.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I mean, I think this is the reason why gratitude practice is so effective, because you train your brain to start looking for things to be grateful for. So you look for opportunities, you look for resources, you look for your creativity. But when you start making the case for, wow, my kids are bleeding me dry, you know, you start scanning the world for all those instead of all the opportunities of how you can make more money to pay for all those stupid day camps.
Yeah, and then your kid runs into the back of your car and has to go to urgent care. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I was like. I was driving, you know, because of course we coach ourselves. We're like, you know, what would I say? What have I created? What is the? And I was driving going, interesting manifestation time. And meanwhile, I've got enrollments coming in like literally by the, you know, 2 or 3 an hour minimum. And I'm like, isn't that an interesting manifestation? As I'm driving to urgent care going, I have no idea what's wrong. Because it's like, there's also a belief system, and I, like, you know, like I have to keep doing the work on myself. My ancestral lineage that's wrapped around me is not going to be scrubbed in a magical poof one time. And I'll notice that and be like, that's interesting. But then, you know, what happens is correct and continue. There is no failure. I don't care how big your debt is. There was a girl in a group, a Facebook group that I'm in, And she said, oh my gosh, like I cannot see past the end of my $5,000 debt that I have. And I was like,
Oh, honey, I've seen my worst.
I'm like, hold on. Okay. You can't see past the end of your $5,000 debt. Well, guess what you're going to get locked into is that. And so it is, it's a continuous correct and continue. Just because you have $5,000 debt, just because you have $50,000 debt, it's like, okay, so I need to manifest X plus if I want to be on the black side of that balance sheet.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean you're done.
No.
Shame in it either.
No. Because you're still the same person who got yourself into that debt to begin with. You have to do the work to make sure that you don't fall back into those old habits that will get you back in that pit. It'll make you feel that way.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's and here's the simple part for all of you watching, listening, you know, however you're interacting with us. Even just talking about it, even just bringing awareness to it can be the game changer. You know, you can absolutely hire Megha to do a healing or me to do some strategy for your business, but like you can start your awareness building by reading books about money and diving into your relationship on money and learning like how it is that you actually treat money right now. Is it showing money that you actually trust it to show up?
And trust yourself to, going back to what we said in the beginning, like trust yourself to use it. I've had people that have literally said to me, don't because I won't do it. Like there's shame riding underneath the lack of trust. Like if you don't have a good solid bead on your habits and your I think tracking, like going to like the gratitude journal for what to be grateful for and be present and aware to, there's also the side of literally tracking the behaviors and the patterns, because if you start tracking your money properly, you start to notice those little death by a thousand lashes habits of, oh, I drink Starbucks. I have actually greatly reduced my Starbucks and realized like I'm spending about $30 to $50 less a month on Starbucks. And we want to talk about privilege. It's that you can literally blow to $50 a month on Starbucks easily.
Yeah. Which, I mean, just to put this in perspective, I had a friend in college who couldn't afford birth control because she had to pay for it out of pocket, and it was $50 a month, and she couldn't afford that.
Yep. Yeah. So and then we become ashamed of our money too. And that's a whole paradigm in itself, because I think a lot of times what happens with people is, it's interesting that many people in relationships won't talk about money.
Right.
Beyond money being the root for many relationships falling apart, many people don't talk about it when they start. So they don't trust themselves, and they have whatever shame or whatever, and they're not willing to come have an honest conversation.
Right.
And then it's funny. It's like what? Religion, money, and sex. Like, don't talk about those things. Yeah.
Politics now too.
Oh, yes. Or anything, you know, other than what color is the sky. And then we could get into more controversy over the sky. You know, right. So, but that's the very reason why if you have shame about it, the universe, energetics, however you want to put it, there is a magnet out there or a deflection shield that's keeping things from you because you don't trust yourself with it. So like a journaling exercise. I do not trust myself with money because blank. And then, you know, go write all the litany of punishments you have about going on spring break and blowing your entire college savings or whatever.
And just so you know, like we're saying this, or Megha's saying this, and I'm saying this, like do this work.
Yeah.
This work. Like this is free coaching right now.
Yeah. Or you invest a half an hour of your not go away with something to do.
Seriously. I mean, and something like this could be the thing that changes your relationship to money.
Yeah.
And I want to just bring it back to like a literal example of, you work for a company and you want to raise. And because you don't actually trust that money's coming to you, there's like a hitch in your voice as you're talking to your boss about why you deserve a raise and all the things. And like that hitch in your voice, that weird tone that you use it in, that's the thing that gets in the way. That energy, that like ickiness that you're carrying with you about either not deserving the money or not trusting yourself to do good with it when you have it, it gets translated in so many different ways.
And also not standing on your price. Have you ever noticed, and I know I've done this in the past, I don't do it anymore. It's really funny to watch now what happens that I don't do it anymore. You start backpedaling a price.
Mm-hmm.
I used to backpedal a price if somebody was like, ooh, that's a lot of money. And I'd be like, well, okay, all right. Well, and so that in a form of not trusting too, because it's like, well, that whole I'll take what I can get because this person's in front of me and they seem to be that if I give them $50 off right now, and not to say this isn't a good sales tactic when appropriately done, but if you find yourself backpedaling, like you energetically feel the difference between a backpedal and a deal, there's a difference. There's a different energy. And when you do that, you are actually less likely to get the person to actually close with you, or at least be invested in what they've paid for, because now you've just shook hands with their limitation.
Right.
That took me a while to navigate, but it literally was the difference in probably, I would say, a 15 to 20% increase in bottom line on my revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And there is that like energetic difference. One of the things that I have my clients do, if they've never sold something in their life, let's create like your next 5 clients get this interim offer, and let's get you out there just practicing that pricing. And then we're going to up it at the end. But one of the things that I give them leeway to do is like, as you're practicing the sales call with your first 5 clients, if one of them legitimately cannot afford it, and you're really excited about working with them, and it'd be really good energetic income for you to actually, spend time with them on the phone and have them as a client, you do get to play let's make a deal. Right. But it has to be an amount that they can afford, that has them have some skin in the game. It can't just be like, oh, $20 an hour. Like, that's going to be super easy for me to pay. I can afford that.
Right. Well, and that's the part of the trust, because there's a point where I'm willing to work with you, and I'm also willing to let you walk away.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is the trust. Yeah. That's how you're actually trusting the money.
Right.
And it will show up, and these people will pay. I didn't lower that client that I talked about in the very beginning. I didn't lower the price for her.
Right.
Energetically, I'm curious what would have happened if I had.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's so funny. Oftentimes when someone's like, oh, that's a lot of money for me, they're wanting a guarantee. And I actually take it the opposite direction. I'm like, listen, I can't guarantee anything. If you need a guarantee, like the most I can do is charge you a lot of money so you have some skin in the game, because you have to do the work. I can't do the work for you. But here's what I can do is, if you're telling me what I charge isn't enough to make sure you have some skin in the game so you do the work, I'm happy to charge you more. And I say it without irony, and people are like, oh, that's why it's that expensive. So I do the work.
Right.
And it's like, yeah. And it's funny. I've had to raise my rates 3 times in the last year because I've had people show up and not do the work.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it's nice for me too. I enjoy making more money, but like literally, that's it.
Well, it kind of goes back to the thing we were talking about trusting yourself with the money. Like inversely, when you invest in something,
yeah,
you're energetically sticking that, you know what, I'm going to invest in this, not I'm going to dabble in this or play with it. If you can, just go throw, 100 on black or something and go for it. Right. Like, I mean, there's a difference there, and that's the trusting of yourself, back to the trust of yourself, because it's like, I am worthy of this investment.
Right.
Which many people have muscle test negatively on that one. Muscle test.
Well, it's so funny. In my comments for a post that I did last week, someone commented the number $24,000 got thrown around, and he said, "Oh, well, if I had $24,000, like, I wouldn't worry about anything." And it's like, $24,000 doesn't actually get you that far. No. But if you invest $24,000 in yourself, so you can create an income for yourself for life, that pays off.
Right.
You know, we have like this. It's almost like we treat ourselves like we're just the smallest being in the world. And then we see this big number and we get all like verklempt over it, and then, but we don't realize that big number could actually be the doorway to a way bigger number and a way bigger life.
That piece of trusting and investing in it has also shown to me, and it also changes who you associate with. And that to me is probably one of the biggest things. And I have a group program I'm rolling out that for that very reason. Like I said, I'm not going to charge a certain low amount to fill the program, because I don't want the whole point being around abundance to be negated by how many side deals went into the program.
Yeah.
And I didn't used to understand that. When I can say, and I have low end programs, meaning low end investments, not low end quality, low end investments that I can serve a lot of people with, because my high end coaches saying, 25,000 plus a year to work with have said, "Oh, you don't need a low end program." And I'm like, yeah, but I have a calling on my heart to serve a lot of people, but I won't lower my price. And so if you find yourself in that you're called to serve a lot of people, being that you want to serve a lot of people who may not necessarily be able to afford a high ticket, does not mean that you have to misalign yourself to be of service. There is no vow of poverty necessary to be of service to humanity.
Right. And it's so funny, we're in this helping world, helpers, healers, coaches, consultants, like people who want to do good in the world. And there seems to be this contract that everyone seems to have of, if I'm going to do good work in the world and help people, I have to also be poor.
Yeah. That is a total distrust of the universal power that be to deliver money and abundance in every form to you.
Yeah. So if someone were to start their journey of trusting money, what would be an exercise that they could do today?
Well, I always revert back to my favorite one. Buy something where you don't look at the price. Yeah. Try on a pair of clothes. Go to one of those stores. So here's the fun thing. I'll change it up from the restaurant. I'll talk about the restaurant another day. Go to a store where it's a boutique. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. I'm not asking you to go walk into Jimmy Choo. If you walk into Jimmy Choo, do not complain to me about how the exercise did not work out for you. Go into a mom and pop business and just look around. Take your price tag filtering system off and go, "Oh my gosh, I am so in love with that."
Yeah.
And then go, "I'd like to buy that." You know the general price of the store you're walking into. So this isn't like an exercise that I'm asking you to go pull a ruby off a shelf. I know there's people right now that are like, "Oh my God, I can't possibly do that." I'm like, that's the point. What's your...
Well, it's so funny. It's even that little mini freak out they have. Like, I'm going to walk into a used furniture store. I'm going to pick an armoire that was from like the 16th century and, is worth, $20,000. Like, no, yourself. You know that you're not going to go into that place, and you know what? They're probably not going to have it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can totally rig the exercise, but just enough to give yourself some trust.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the steakhouse, you know what the highest price bill is that you've probably ever seen come out of the steakhouse. Like, oh, it might be $90 if I get the lobster and the steak or the whatever. It might be. Art. Go to an art gallery. I mean, even if you are like literally, and I know some people are literally like, okay, Megha, great advice if you've got disposable income, but I don't have disposable income.
Yeah.
Acting as if is a neurological patterning exercise that actually works. Back to the whole yellow Jeep analogy. You walk in. Imagine that you have the money to go into that store and purchase that thing without the how.
Yeah.
You trust yourself. You trust the experience. I went into luxury car dealerships. I'm about to go drive a Maserati, and I'm very clear that as I'm bitching about summer camp drainage, that I'm not ready to buy the Maserati. But I will tell the Maserati guy, I want to drive the car because I'm creating space to know what it feels like to walk in, take me through the entire customer experience. And now I know what it feels like to drive the Maserati.
Yeah.
And they're like, sure, because they are kings of watching manifestation come to life.
I know, right? And how good is it going to feel full circle next year or in 2 months when you go back and you're like, here's cash. Thank you very much. They're like, thank you.
Yeah, I need to finance that.
So true. Okay, so that is your homework for today, everyone. Megha, this has been so much fun. Thank you for joining me.
What's your homework? I gave mine. What was yours?
Oh,
I guess you should stack them up. They have a whole pile of notes by the time they're done.
Yeah, honestly, the homework that sticks with me right now is the homework you actually gave me a while ago, which is to write down with your dominant hand. So I'm right-handed. So write down with your dominant hand everything that you believe about money until you can't write anymore, until you can't think of anything more. And then you switch to your left hand, which is fucking hard to write with your right hand. And continue. And oh my God, the crap that came out, it revealed so much to me about things that I thought I'd healed that I hadn't, from past relationships, from my own actions with money, all this stuff. And I mean, you described this so well, but it really, when you're focusing that hard on holding a pen and making little squiggles that make sense, your ego can't get in and make it sound good. Your ego is just like out to lunch, like, you got to figure this out. I don't know what you're doing. Are you drunk? And things come out that you really didn't realize that you believed, but you actually do believe at a very core level. Mm-hmm. So if you're watching this and you want to go and torture yourself for a good half hour, that is the best way to do it. And it is the most healing. And then
feel free to tell either of us what came out.
Yes.
If you want to share it somewhere that it won't be like, oh, well, you did what?
Right. Yeah. Share it with us. And also, if you get a scratch ticket and win $100,000, can you just buy us lunch? Yeah. We'd love to celebrate with you.
So it's a Harry and David package. There we go.
Right. Anyway, Megha, thanks again for joining me. Everyone, I'm Katie McManus, business strategist and leadership coach. Megha Bradley, who is a money healer. And if you want to hire her to get some healing, I highly recommend her. Anyway, that's all for us tonight, Monday. We'll see you next week.